What's going on, party people? Friday Q&A, walking around, having fun. Hope you're having a good day today. Can't believe it is February 7th. Sorry I wasn't here last week. I was traveling, was on my way to Florida to go to UF for a pre-med fair. I hope you're doing well. If you have any questions about your crazy pre-med journey, please let me know. I'll be happy to answer them the best I can. Am I in the metaverse? I am. Just taking a stroll through the crazy tunnels. How you doing? Servant for Change. Hello, everyone over on IG. Hello, everyone on YouTube. If you have questions, again, hit me up. I'm just here. Questions about applying to medical school, the personal statement, activities, life, liberty in the pursuit of happiness, all that good stuff. You guys hear me okay? Ilya, last session you talked about patient transfer to be lowest form of clinical, what is considered highest level or even medium level. Yeah, there isn't a scale, right? It's just kind of a personal subjective thing that patient transport is, I would classify it as clinical, but I know a lot of schools that just don't like to see it. So, right, the more traditional clinical experiences are going to be the higher level ones, right? EMT, phlebotomy, medical assistant, CNA, those types of things. Natalie, I'm applying to med school this cycle. June 28th MCAT, worried it's a bit late in the cycle, but I haven't taken biochem. I want to give myself time to prepare. It's not too late to take the MCAT as long as you're kind of also planning on submitting your application in June as well. And so a lot of students will get scared about submitting their application prior to having their MCAT score. But what you can do is submit to one school, get your MCAT score back, work on secondaries as if you're applying to all the other schools on your list. And then when you get your MCAT score back, you celebrate, you add the other schools to your list. Your application has been hopefully verified at that point or is close to being verified. So June 28th, the date doesn't scare me in that regard, as long as you're submitting your application as well. All right. How do you feel about this NIH nonsense and applications? That's about it. It's nonsense. We'll see. Time will tell what happens. I was submitting early June to one school in case my score doesn't go well. Perfect. Perfect, perfect. Ethan's Tech. How much time should we plan to allocate for preparing for SJTs? Very little. Casper, preview, understand the test. Go take the practice tests that they give you. Understand what each test is. Preview is a test of conformity. How well are you picking answers that the faculty members have also picked, right? The people that are scoring the tests. Whereas Casper is a test about thought process. How did you get to your answer? not just do you know the answer. So that's a huge difference. And where I think a lot of students, they'll do well with preview and struggle with Casper because they think Casper is just like, oh, I know the answer. Oh, I know the answer. But you need to explain yourself or you don't get credit for the answer. For LORs, can they be a year old? They can be. Should they be is a better question. Ideally, letters are dated the year that you apply. Ideally, letters are dated the year that you apply. Leggy Cam is back. What's up, Leggy Cam? I'll have a 3.3 graduating, GPA graduating. I have to take the pre-med classes in post-bacc. I have 2 really low grades from community college. That should get me to a 3.5 if I retook them. Should I? Retaking classes, it's not a magic thing, right? At the end of the day, it's all math, how the GPA works. So you don't need to retake the classes unless the general rule of thumb is they're a prereq and you got a C- or lower. And those 2 grades, they said, an F in stats and a D in Spanish. No bueno. No bueno. Come on. Yeah, so again, retaking those, not super important because they're not prereqs for most schools. Now, if you apply to a school that has stats as a prereq, that changes the equation. Deanna Duerte. I'm in medical school now. Thank you for not sugarcoating anything. We are better people in pre-med because of you, Dr. Gray. Oh, that is so sweet. Thank you so much. Diana. Let's go with Diana. Thank you. That's amazing. I hope you're having fun, as fun as you can have in medical school. As I tell people, medical school, I had lots of fun, lots of great friends from med school. It was a lot of work, but it's doable and worth it if you want it. Zachary, RN with associate's degree in nursing. Should I get a BSN then post-bacc or do a major with prereqs included? I think the nursing route, if you want to go to medical school, is a waste of time. I don't think, especially you're an RN already, I think it's just a waste of time. And you're going to be taking so many extra classes that you just don't need. I have 30 hours of shadowing a CRNA, and I do anticipate questions asking why MD versus NP CRNA. Can I use those hours in my shadowing section? I want to show I'm really sure of MD. I have to look over my computer to the screen behind. Yeah, include it. If you were shadowing the CRNA because you were interested in exploring that as a potential career, or maybe that's just who you had access to and you were able to now compare and contrast, go for it. Ollie, hey doc, I have my first med interview coming up. Congrats, good luck. Anything to set myself apart? Yeah, don't try to set yourself apart. I think this is one of the biggest mistakes that students make in the application process in general, whether it is the primary application with personal statement activities, whether it is the activities themselves, or interviewing. Students try to stand out. And standing out for most students causes them to stand out not in a good way. And so when you try too hard, it comes across as very forced, very cliche typically, and you're missing the point of what the medical school interview is for, which is to have a conversation and understand who you are, understand obviously your communication skills, but really just understand who you are as a person. And when you go in with this, like, I'm going to stand out, it usually falls flat. So go in, have a good conversation, treat it like you're meeting a friend at the coffee shop. That's what I always call it, a coffee shop conversation. And just have fun. It's Yessie. Hello, Yessie. Is it okay to reach out to med schools for feedback on our applications? I know some obvious things now. Thanks, Dr. Ray. But wondering if there's more I'm missing. Yeah, if you haven't gotten in, right, if you know you're rejected, I wouldn't reach out to schools prior to knowing you're officially rejected, which unfortunately most schools don't reject you until the very end, which is annoying. Then yeah, reach out to schools and ask. Most of them will tell you they don't have time, but go for it. Do prereqs expire? It depends on the school. Diana, I'm so proud of my personal statement because it is boring, but it also profound in purpose. Comparison is a thief of your authenticity. I love it. And I use that word authentic all the time. Unique is not something you need to be concerned about in this process. Authentic is the only thing you should be worried about. I'm being bullied in school. Can you help me? Talk to your teachers, talk to your administration, talk to your parents, talk to friends. Bullying, unfortunately, is a crappy part of this process. I was bullied in school. I think a lot of kids are bullied in school. You just got to know at the end of the day, hurt people hurt people. So the people that are bullying you probably have pretty miserable home lives. They probably are bullied by their parents, by siblings, by other people, and by bullied, by beaten, abused. So I think you need to do everything possible to protect yourself physically, mentally, everything else. Talk to as many people as you can. And at the end of the day, take away the bully's power. Don't give in. Don't give them the time of day. I have a 10 and a 6-year-old. We teach them, right? If a bully is trying to bully you, just ignore them. If they don't get a rise out of you, they'll get bored and move on. Lizzie the scientist. I think I missed you answer if you answered my question. Sorry, Lizzie. Let's go see what your question was. How do you feel about 25 hours in a post-bacc with a 4.0 GPA? I think that's fantastic. Now, I don't know what else I'm supposed to think about it because that in a silo doesn't tell me anything. But 25 hours with a 4.0 in a post-bacc is fantastic, assuming all of those 25 credits are hard science credits. That's the goal there. Can I use nursing undergrad research as research experience? You can. Keep those questions coming. How long should the personal statement be? You get 5,300 characters, so I would use as much as possible for AMCAS and a COMIS. TMDSAS, the Texas Application Service, is 5,000 characters. Oh, hey, Dr. Gray. Any advice to pre-med students who felt like they may have regressed in their gap years as they are gearing up to reapply? Define regressed. What does that mean? Regressed how? Regressed in strength of application, regressed as a person. What do you mean there? Oh, will MD or PA admissions look unfavorably on your application if they know you have applied to both? I have super strong opinions about this. Number one, they're not going to know. They're different admissions offices, assuming you're applying to the same school. There's very little chance they're going to know that you're applying to both. Diana, going to Kenya. Gotta brush up on your Swahili. Say after me, Jambo, habari yako. Jambo, habari yako. Mazuri, Mazuri sana. Kenya is a beautiful country. I've been once. I would love it. So number one, going back to the MD versus PA, the schools, the admissions offices aren't going to know that you have applied to both. There's very little chance. But I question why the heck you're applying to both. And my guess is that your application is going to be weak for both. This is the whole don't have a plan B philosophy, right? That I have, that a lot of people have, because your plan B is distracting from plan A. I would assume that your med school application isn't as strong as it should be in terms of why do you want to be a doctor, because you haven't even convinced yourself that you want to be a doctor because you're applying to PA schools too. And your PA school application isn't as strong about why you want to be a PA because you're really not sure you want to be a PA because you're applying to med schools. So yeah, I'm not a fan of this strategy. I think number one, you're not being fair to yourself and to your future self and to your future patients, applying to a program where you may not want to be because you're trying to, what I assume, hurry up and get through the process. So, not a fan. WVUC. Woofs. My fiance is applying PharmD. I'm applying MD. We both have acceptances, but not in the same city yet. And her deadline to commit is March 1st. Would it be seen as impolite to ask schools to accept or reject me from their wait list by March 1st? Yeah, I don't think you can play that game. Unfortunately, I think it comes across pretty entitled, I would say, to the med schools. If you're like, hey, like, I have a deadline here. They'll be like, okay, great, see ya. They'll just reject you. Yeah, I think you go with whatever would be the best situation and assume you won't be in the same city and then hope that it works out. It looks like I'm walking backwards. I'm walking backwards. What does a consultant do? What kind of consultant? Financial consultant? Pre-med consultant? What do you mean there, baby J? Waitlisted at 2 programs that she has an acceptance. Could you send a letter of intent to one of them saying, hey, my fiance is going to this school, whatever. There's so many nuances with the answer because number one, do you know if the wait list that you're on is ranked? Do you know what your status is on that rank list? What has the medical school told you about what their process is? Have they told you that they accept interest letters or letters of intent? There's a lot of nuance in the answer here. Is it too late to send my med application June 7th? No, it's a week after the application's open. That's not too late at all. There's so much misinformation that you have to apply the first day of the application or you're dead in the water. There's no. Miles, I got my BSN, 2,000 clinical hours, then decided to do a full-time post-bacc, not working. If I take a gap year now, would it be significantly better or worse to do research during it versus working as an RN? I would do some RN work so you can get your clinical experience. Research to me is super overrated, but that's up to you if you want to go get some research. I wouldn't waste a year just getting research to try to strengthen your application because it's the one of the least important parts of the application for the majority of schools out there. Justin, I'm currently a junior with little research experience, was wondering if I should do a fellowship at a homeless shelter, passionate, or as a research part-time EMT this summer. Do whatever you want, right? With the caveat, recency and consistency with clinical, recency and consistency with shadowing, with clinical being more important. I've been working as an MA for a private practice for the past 4 months. Clinic is closing due to a lack of profit. How do I explain the short employment period on MCAS? You can just, in the last sentence of that activity, just say the clinic closed. You stopped working due to the clinic closing. Rishi, saw your HP-SP video. How you found it difficult to match into ortho? Is it pretty much every specialty harder to match into HP-SP, or does it depend on how many spots? It's all about how many spots, and that changes every year. So yeah, just depends. How many volunteer hours are ideal prior to applying to medical school? What do you mean by volunteer hours? Do you mean non-clinical volunteering or clinical volunteering? I'm trying to get students to stay away from just using the term volunteering because it's not descriptive enough. So yeah, I would say, I was talking to a dean of admissions at dinner the other night, and her rule of thumb that she tells her applicants is 100 hours of community service, non-clinical volunteering, if that's what you mean. What do consultants do for you? They help you. But if you're applying to Oxford, I mean, that's not what we specialize in. We specialize in US and Canada. So we help you tell your story, write your essays, give you feedback, prepare for your interviews, make sure you're telling your story well. I'm not going to keep answering all of the how many hours questions. I don't like that questions. More than 0 is always the answer. There's no certain number to get. Diana had research in my med school as a parasitologist. He was born in Kenya. Awesome. Take anti-malarials before I go for the experience as an M1 student. Yeah, anti-malarials before you go, while you're there, after. I don't know what the current guidelines are for that. You'll have to check with, assuming the like Department of Health. There's usually a travel medicine clinic that you can find and get everything you need. You'll also need, I think, yellow fever vaccine. So just, yeah, travel medicine. That's who you want to go explore, go talk to, let them know where you're going, and they'll pull up a chart of all of the recommendations based on the location. If you're working a non-clinical job, can you get away with not having clinical experience? Josh. No. Let me explain why clinical experience is important. So many of you have a mindset of thinking that this process is a checklist. I have to do this, I have to do this, I have to do this, I have to do it for the med schools. Getting clinical experience is for you. It's for you to determine if you like being around patients, if you like taking care of patients. Shadowing is important so that you can understand what the life of a doctor might truly look like outside of television or movies or whatever. Those activities are necessary for you so that you can decide, do I want to continue down this path or not? And then when you apply to medical school, you are then able to reflect on those experiences, write about those experiences, talk about those experiences, and reassure the medical schools, I've done my own research, right? That's the point of this. So no, just because you have a non-clinical job and that's taking up most of your time because it pays well, because it puts food on the table and a roof over your head, that doesn't mean that you can just skip clinical experience because it's for you. I'm passionate about that one. Serving for change. My GPA is low, 3.132. I'm considering a post-bacc. What GPA should I apply with? It's not a final GPA that you should worry about. If you're graduating with a 3.1 or 3.2, your GPA is not going to move much just because you have so many credits in that denominator. You need to look at trend. So 20, 30, 40 credits at as close to a 4.0 as possible is your goal. And don't do that until you know that you can get as close to a 4.0 as possible. Any advice for Army HPSP? Yeah, don't do it. Don't do Army HPSP. Do Air Force instead. Seriously. No advice. Obviously, dentists, the dental pathway is different than the med pathway, right? We are out there doing residencies and stuff like that, and we have to apply for that. The Air Force dentists on the bases that I was at seemed great, seemed happy, so go for it. What do you think UF focuses on when reviewing med school applicants? How does a school like UF review the thousands of applicants and choose who to interview? The same as every other school. They have their priorities in terms of what they're looking for, who they're looking for, and they just go. They may be using some sort of filters and algorithms and AI maybe even now, right, to filter down the list. But it is, yeah, I think playing that game of what they focus on when reviewing med school applicants is not the right question to ask. I think at the end of the day, You need to be yourself, understand the big buckets that you should be thinking about as a pre-med, understand how to present yourself in the application and in interviews. And there are going to be schools that like it, and there are going to be schools that don't. Kyle, just wanted to say thank you. I used a lot of your advice this cycle. I've been accepted to 3 medical schools. Congrats, Kyle. Amazing. Is there help for underserved students that want to apply for 20 medical schools? Very odd question. Yeah, the FAP allows you to apply to 20 medical schools. Amazing. Yeah, Lorena, that's what the FAP, the fee assistance program from the AAMC. And we've had fee assistance program discounts for some of our services. The Application Academy specifically, our group advising. But just yesterday, actually, we opened up for 30-minute one-on-one calls with advisors at a 50% discount for FAP recipients. So you can check that out as well. Justin took short for free credit courses in the summer, and the mapped graph shows a bumpy trend. A in summers, but not in the semester. How would this impact my upward trend? I don't think you can just look at like one little bump and go, oh my gosh. You have to kind of pull back and look big picture. Right? Similar to watching your weight. I'm on a kind of a weight loss thing now. And even though, right, if I were to look at a 2-month span of my weight, it is going down. But if I zoomed in, it's up and down almost every single day. So I don't think you have to worry about one little bump in there. What do I think of AI to help applications, reviewing applications? Is it reviewing applications or for you as the applicant to work on your applications? What do you mean by that, servant? How is physical therapy aid experience considered compared to ER assistant tech EMT? I would weigh the more medical experience higher if you're applying to medical school. I think PT aid is a good experience. I've done a little bit of that in high school because I thought I wanted to be a physical therapist for a little bit, but I wouldn't make it the majority of your time. Can I claim a different state residence on AMCAT versus TMDS? Say yes. I'm from Texas, but went to grad school in Louisiana. What about for ACOMAS? No, unfortunately, it's not a choose your own adventure here. You have to follow whatever the state laws are, whatever you truly are a resident of. So if you're a Texas resident, you're a Texas resident, period. Post-bacc killer. How do DO and MD applications differ? Very little. The personal statement's the same length. The timeline for submissions a little bit different, where ACOMAS, it opens, you can submit immediately. AMCAS has a delay before you can submit. Character counts for activities are only 600 for ACOMAS versus 700 for AMCAS, but you get unlimited numbers of activities on ACOMAS. It's more expensive. The DO application is more expensive. Those are the big ones. Nothing else crazy. On the DO application, some of the schools have elected to kind of embed, if that's a good word for it, their secondary applications into the primary app. And so if you come across some of those schools my recommendation is take those schools off of your list, submit your application, and then go back, work on the essays and add those schools back, and then resubmit with those new schools added. The DO application verification timeline is completely different than MCAS. It's maybe up to a week at its peak season versus a month or 6 weeks or 8 weeks for the MCAS application. Would I suggest ROTC? No opinion on that. If you want to do it, great. If you don't. Just don't get yourself into a situation where you're committing to something and all of a sudden you're like, oh shoot, what do you mean I can't apply to medical school? Don't do that. Should you include grades and update letters if you think the grades are needed? If a school accepts update letters. Lorena, where can I find help with writing secondaries when the time comes? Well, we have the secondaryapps.com. Little ticker going across the top there. Secondaryapps.com is our database of secondary questions. But if you want help writing those, that's what we do kind of day in and day out with working on essays. Go over to medicalschoolhq.net for that. Jalen, is it bad if my only clinical experience started 1 year before applying? 1 year before applying is better than 1 month before applying. It's better than 6 months before applying. Go for it. As long as also you're continuing something throughout the application cycle, clinical-wise. Kept LORs in Interfolio. You should use my LORs, part of Mapped Pro. I didn't end up applying, retook the MCAT. Can I still use them for this cycle? So the general rule of thumb is letters should be dated the year that you apply. And I know that Interfolio, unlike what we do with my LORs, Interfolio sends a cover letter letting the schools know when the letter was updated to Interfolio. And yeah, ideally, you get updated letters, at least on the face, just having them redate it. If a course is listed cross-reference as 2 different names, gerontology and biology, with no difference in class, it will show up on my transcript as gerontology. Can I use it as a science GPA? Sure, I would mark it as a science GPA and let the application service do what they're going to do. How important is research compared to the other prereqs? The least important for most schools. 3.4 science GPA, 3.8 business degree. Should I do an SMP since I'm trending downward? Bella, it's not enough information to tell you to do that. I'm not a fan of SMPs in general. They're expensive, and you can just go take classes as a non-degree seeking student, typically for a lot less per credit. There's generally no benefit to the SMP program. They'll sell you on structure, they'll sell you on a certificate, but in general, it's not needed. All right, friends, I have to run. It's been fun. I will try to be here again next week or other times when I'm just walking. I walk about, 5 or 6 miles a day, sometimes 10 or 13. I think Monday or Tuesday, I walk like 13 miles. I'm like, oh, I did a half marathon. I will see you soon. Bye-bye. Again, medicalschoolhq.net. Check out our services if you want some help with your applications or your pre-med journey. Subscribe to the YouTube channel here at Medical School HQ to get all of our fun videos. We'll see you soon. Bye.